Are you an L Brands shareholder? Are you looking into getting into L Brands stock? Is L Brands stock a buy for 2018? Well, in this video, I want to go over some actual details, finances, all that kind of stuff behind the company, and figure out if L Brands is really a good investment. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you enjoy these videos. So I know a lot of you that follow Jeremy's channel of financial education are most likely invested in L Brands, but unfortunately a lot of people don't look into the company for themselves to figure out if it is a good investment. So just because someone invests in a company does not mean that you should also invest in it blindly. You should be looking into it, you should be looking at the finances, the health of the company, future prospects, and then making a decision for yourself if that's a good investment or not. So luckily for you, today I thought I'd spend a bit of time going over some of the details behind L Brands, and this hopefully will give you a better informed decision on whether it's a good stock to hold right now or for the long term. So L Brands, if you're not familiar with what the company does, is a beauty stock, and they kind of appeal to a wide range of age groups. On top of this, they also appeal to a wide range of classes. So people who have less money, people who have more money, it still has products that they can sell to either one. So the brands that L Brands owns include La Senza, Pink, Victoria's Secret, Bath & Body Works, and Henri Bendel. So Henri Bendel is one that I'm actually not too familiar with, but the other four are pretty commonly seen around malls, especially here in Canada. So like I mentioned, what I find about these brands is that they appeal to pretty much every age group. So teenagers who don't have a lot of money will typically go shop at La Senza as opposed to their local Walmart, for example. Whereas women who have a bit more disposable income and are a higher class would typically go to Victoria's Secret as opposed to their competitors like Abercrombie & Fitch, Calvin Klein, American Eagle. And in my opinion, this is because there's a sense of prestige with owning that brand. It's similar to the mentality that people have with Apple and the following and the brand loyalty that Apple has. So like I mentioned, L Brands also owns another business called Bath & Body Works, which is actually a huge component of why they're growing so well right now. So once again, Bath & Body Works is also considered a higher end store, and people prefer shopping here as opposed to their local Walmart, even though you can get technically equivalent products. But that sense of prestige and brand is what gets people into the store at Bath & Body Works. So now that you have a rough idea of what the company does, what kind of products they sell, let's dive into some of the numbers and see how this company is doing financially. So first I want to throw up some stats here that I found in their investors page. So here you can see that they claim that Victoria's Secret is the #1 brand for millennials. They are also the #1 fashion brand in the world according to their social media stats. So for example, they have 57 million Instagram followers, 11 million Twitter followers, and 27 million Facebook fans. As you can see here, their lingerie line is also ranked #1 compared to their competitors. So they have a lot of good things going for them, as you can see from the stats. And they have a pretty strong brand, like I mentioned, overall, and they're pretty much the market leader in this space. So now let's talk a bit about growth and growth potential in this company. So as you can see here, they have had 29 consecutive quarters of sales growth from 2009 to 2016. So in my opinion, this is a very interesting stat that appeals to investors, and is also a big reason as to why people like Jeremy on financial education is very excited about this brand. In a world where retail is kind of dying off and Amazon is pretty much killing off anyone that's competing in any space, they're still growing sales year over year, quarter over quarter. And that's something that a lot of investors don't really find that often anymore with retail stores. What this also shows is how strong this brand is and how women continue to shop at these stores regardless of competition out there and regardless of the availability of Amazon and purchasing things on Amazon. So now let's dive deeper into these numbers and let's see how each one of these brands that they has contributes to their overall profit. So first and foremost here, we can see that the Pink brand and the Bath & Body Works brand is truly what's currently moving the company forward. The Victoria's Secret line is growing, but it's not as significant as the other two. The reasoning here, according to L Brands, is that in North America, they have reached pretty much all the customers that they can in a sense. So this doesn't mean that sales are just gonna drop tomorrow or drop over the next quarter or something like that, but it does mean that the company is kind of reaching a plateau where they're not gonna see massive sales growth in that segment. But this is actually a perfect segue into what I want to talk about next, which is China. So I absolutely love investing in companies that are either based in China or are somehow involved with China. So in L Brand's case, it's actually a company that is involved in China. They're slowly expanding to China, and this is where I personally see some good opportunity with them. So according to their report, they have strong brand presence in China and customers there love their brand. So currently they have really small market share in China, especially with Victoria's Secret. But as I see the middle class growing in China, people are going to have more disposable income and people are going to want to purchase these products more because, again, it is seen as a prestigious and higher class item to own. Alright, so now before we get into our last point, I want to remind you guys to join our new Facebook group, Positive Investing. It's a completely free group, 100% free. You can engage in discussion. I will respond to the discussions. We have over 50 members now. It's growing nicely. And we have a lot of great discussion going throughout the week, on weekends. Doesn't matter when it is. You post something that you want to learn about in there. People are very helpful. I try to be as engaged as possible. So there's really no downside to joining this. I'll leave a link down in the description as well as the comment section. So make sure you join that right now. Alright, so now of course the last thing we need to address is of course the charts and the dividend that this company pays. So as of recording this video, L Brand pays a whopping, wait for it, 6.94% dividend. And as of right now, they're paying out around 70% of their profits. So this is a bit on the higher side in my opinion, especially since they want to grow in China and they have to put a lot more investments in China to purchase retail space and all that stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this dividend either stay stable for the next few years or start dropping. So now if we look at the charts for L Brands, we can see here that this has pretty much been a steady downtrend. So this is in part to the Amazon effect that we discussed earlier, and also because there are fears out there that since their North American growth is plateauing, for the Victoria's Secret brand at least, investors aren't sure if they can really bring in those profits like they used to before. However, if you consider their potential in China, this concern is really reduced and should bring back the brand to growth at least with this space. Apart from this though, I'm not a huge fan of the charts for L Brands. It's a very choppy chart and it gaps down a lot on any negative news, as with most retail stocks these days, and it has a really hard time recovering when it does gap down. Personally, it's a chart that I would not really like to get involved with because there's not much predictability, and I like investing in companies that have a healthy uptrend. Okay, so now let's sum this up with some pros and cons. So the pros is, first of all, these guys are pretty much the dominant player in this space. They have been growing pretty much 20 some odd consecutive quarters with brands like Pink and Bath & Body Works leading it. They're expanding to China, so their brand Victoria's Secret will potentially see some good growth in the next few years, most likely double-digit growth. And of course, they pay a very high dividend compared to the rest of the market right now. Now, of course, the cons, first thing we have to address is the dividend. Like I mentioned, they are paying out around 70%. So that means that they could cut this, especially if they want to put that money into growth in China. So a lot of investors will see this as a negative, and I would not be surprised to see the stock take a huge hit if they do announce a dividend cut. The second thing is, since I like looking at charts, this is a very messy chart and it's not one that's easy to read. So I tend to stay away from stocks like this. And the third is they kind of have a lot of their eggs in one basket here, and that being China. So they're pretty much betting that China is going to be the moving factor or the catalyst that'll take Victoria's Secret to the next level. But if that doesn't go according to plan, we could see a lot more downside in this company. So the bottom line is, am I buying L Brands? So from a fundamental standpoint, these guys have good growth, they have a low PE, they pay a good dividend, and they have good potential moving forward. Like I said, I love investing in companies that are getting involved or are already involved in China because I see a lot of potential there. But I also like looking at charts when I invest, and when I take a look at L Brands charts, it doesn't really instill any confidence in me that this company is going to be turning around anytime soon. anytime we see any good news in the stock with an upgrade or any other type of good news, the stock moves up, but it doesn't last very long and the sellers start coming back in and pushing the price lower again. So like I mentioned at the beginning, I know a lot of you are invested in L Brands because Jeremy from the Financial Education is holding this, and I believe it is his largest position. But again, I hope this video did provide you with some insight into the company, and it kind of gives you a better understanding of where they get their money, what segments are growing, and where their future really lies. So with this information, I want you to take it, read some more stuff. They have some good documentation on their investors page, and figure out for yourself if this is a company that you believe is actually in turnaround mode, or if it's just going to be a slow and painful death going down as Amazon continues to overtake the retail space. But either way guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you in the next one.